go somewhere where it's been established for a long time. They've already had regulation on it for a long time if you're going to do that.
A lot of them have a lot of stringent rules, and frankly, I've just avoided them altogether.
So for you guys, you look at that as an opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity.
If you make it harder for everybody else to compete with you, now all of a sudden there's less fish in that pond, and you guys are going to do better.
Old way of operating a hotel would have an operating expense ratio of about 65%.
If that's what you're in for, your cap rate is like effectively a 15%.
It's enormous.
Yeah, once you're done doing your thing. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. I have a different guest today. I've got David Atwell on the show. You've been on the podcast before, quite a while back. David has been in our office quite a bit, and he's a very capable guy. So I said, come on for an episode. The context here is a couple of weeks ago, Jake and I were talking a lot about hospitality and the type of properties, kind of the do's and don'ts, at least in our opinion. And I really like the opportunity to talk to you about this because, Dave, you buy hotels.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. So high level, like a lot of stuff is changing in Ontario and probably across the country. Really, there's the federal restrictions that are coming in.
Yeah.
Like high level, being so focused on the hospitality industry, what do people need to know?
So the biggest thing right now is for people to be aware of all the licensing that's happening and what is legal and what is not legal. So I think a lot of people got really lucky with Airbnb from 2010 to 2020. You can make a lot of money buying a condo and just putting on Airbnb. Not a lot of people realize that they were really contributing to the affordable housing crisis with that. Mm-hmm. And now there's all kinds of legislation and rules and municipal laws that are coming across Canada, even across the planet. One of the most important things to make sure you're operating legally. That's number one. So can you get a license? Can you operate it for 360 days a year? All those kind of things.
And that was my thought when I kind of gave my thoughts on this a couple of weeks back was, go somewhere where it's been established for a long time. They've already had regulation on it for a long time if you're going to do that, because odds are they're not just going to stomp it out. Like if they've already got the regulation. But if you're going and investing somewhere that does not yet have regulation, knowing that every other city has come in and regulated, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and definitely avoid residential property. So if you're buying a condo or a house with your intention to put it on Airbnb, there's a really good chance it's not going to be permitted to operate like that for very long. Yeah. You may get lucky for a couple of years, but eventually it's going to get most likely it'll be stopped.
Yeah, in other words, you got to have your plan B.
Yeah.
You got to have your plan B there for sure. Any other thoughts on that? Like I like areas where Airbnb is established. It might be residential zone, but it's like an area that's popular for cottage rentals and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what we do with our camp and stuff. Well, we're not in res zones, we're in commercial, but we're up in those type of areas.
Yeah. First time Airbnb buyers, like going up near like chalets, like Blue Mountains, Muskokas, like there are specific areas that will allow Airbnb operations. But a lot of them have a lot of stringent rules. And frankly, I've just avoided them altogether. I just went straight for the hotel business.
Yeah.
It's established. You're getting 20 to 40 units in a hotel. It's licensed. It's meant to operate that way. So it's a much more comfortable asset to be operating. Not to mention when you have an Airbnb, you need to be disclosing that to your lenders. You need to disclose that to your insurance providers. So
for sure.
And if you're not, you're committing mortgage fraud, you're committing insurance fraud. Mm-hmm. What happens if there's a fire at your Airbnb and you weren't properly insured? Yeah. There's a lot of risk operating an Airbnb in an amateur fashion in one-off properties. And frankly, it's just not worth it anymore. Yeah. And the Fed's even making that even more clear by not allowing you to deduct expenses.
Is that like formal? That's done?
I'm not 100% sure.
I heard it was like more of a threat at this point, but yeah, basically you won't be able to deduct expenses if you're operating in an area that doesn't allow it.
Yeah. Which would just be absolutely devastating. There'd be no
profit.
There's no reason to.
You'd be paying taxes and not profitable. So
exactly.
So I heard that they would just count the revenue but not the expenses, which would be devastating.
Oh, it'd be absolutely devastating. There's no reason to be running an Airbnb at that point.
Yeah.
Now that makes it challenging for investors though, because what happens if you want that short-term rental income? You only have one choice, and that's to buy a hotel, really.
Yeah. So give your pitch, because there it is, the hotel. I mean, of course, we went buy a commercially zoned property that allowed it, which is a similar idea, but we're doing like camping.
It's fantastic.
which works. But
Yeah.
you're doing hotels which work year round, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
Less seasonal than our business. So give the pitch. What do you look for? Is it feasible for people to get into that market? Give me the high level.
So it is very tricky to get into the market. Even just to finance it, you will have to have some significant experience in real estate. Most banks won't finance them even today just yet. You will have to work with a B lender or even a private lender.
So you go, you find a deal. Let's focus on one you were telling me about off camera. It was like a Quebec deal.
Quebec City, yep.
Quebec City. What'd you find?
So it's a $3 million 23 unit hotel. The owner's had it for about 40 some odd years and he's ready to retire. And the hotel's great. One of the things I look for is that front desk. If they have a desk to check people in, that's an instant value add because we can strip that out, put in a digital concierge, take that all off site. That's like one of the number one things that I look for.
So you could see that they were running it inefficiently.
Very inefficiently.
And for those who don't have the context, you can look back at the episode on the podcast. But one of the things you do is you do heavy automation in these buildings.
Yeah. And that's going to be incredibly on trend for the next foreseeable future. I mean, AI is here to stay. I look at real estate assets and businesses that can be improved and it can add value to. Well, customer service is such an important part of running a hotel. So if I can train an AI bot to explain to guests, how do they check in, where do they park, where do they go to get groceries, whatever, we're eliminating the human element from that and the cost of it. So hotels are just going to become more and more efficient over time. And combined with the Airbnb legislation, I mean, my goal is to buy as many as possible and just hold them.
Tongue in cheek, like we were hearing about how up in Tobermory they're restricting the number of licenses and cracking down on Airbnb. And we're like, is this like, how do we feel about this? Is this not like a really good thing for us, being that we're in? It's like if you look at it from an opportunity standpoint. Now, if you own land that allows it, that's outside of that regulation, you're getting more of a monopoly.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we experienced that firsthand last year in Montreal. Tragically, there was a fire last April where 7 people were killed in an illegal Airbnb. And immediately the next day, the province of Quebec ordered Airbnb to shut down all of the illegal listings.
So everything in like residential zones.
Yeah, and it was just like blackout. Like they were all gone. And then it was just the licensed hotels that were remaining on the platform and still are today. Now, the CITQ, that's the organization in Quebec that license hotels and short-term rentals. They've been around for a long time and they have been imposing this license and these penalties if you break the rules with Airbnb. But a lot of them had slipped through the cracks and they weren't being enforced.
Yeah.
But up until last year, now it's very, very strict. You have to be licensed in order to be on Airbnb. Yeah. And you get massive fines if you're not doing it properly.
So for you guys, you look at that as an opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity.
If you make it harder for everybody else to compete with you, now all of a sudden there's less fish in that pond and you guys are going to do better.
Yeah, we're just buying that license for those hotel rooms.
Okay, so you're buying license per hotel room. Do you have any issue with that? Like when you went into those 23 units, right?
Yep.
When you went into that, was it in the bylaw that that's what it allows?
Yeah.
So you knew there was no chance you're getting less than that?
Yeah. So we usually build that into the offer that the license has to be transferred over and that it has the ability to be transferred over. But that license lives with the property and with that tourist address. So they're all registered with the CITQ.
Okay.
So there's a finite amount of them and it's very difficult to get new ones. It's very hard to change a property into a hotel in Quebec.
All right. So that's your angle. Do you ever go, because I know you were talking about doing some multifamily and operating them as short-term at one point. This was years ago at this point.
Yeah. So short-term rental, the definition of it is 28 days or less. So that's a big no-no for multifamily. One thing that we had been considering are just executive furnished rentals, so 30 days plus, and using a digital concierge. Now, another idea with that was to allow residents of your building to Airbnb their rooms out. Okay. Because when you're a tenant in a home, you have the right to Airbnb your home if you'd like to. You still have to get licensed, and you're only allowed to do it for 180 days per year. Okay. The concept we had, which we're no longer pursuing, was to take a multifamily building and structure it for the tenants to live there. And if they want to go backpacking, they want to go on vacation, they can Airbnb their room.
Yeah. So you guys bought that one for, what you said, $3 million?
So the first one we bought was $3 million. Yeah, 2024 Saint Denis.
Okay, but what about this 23 unit?
That one is also $3 million.
$3 million. Okay, so 130 per unit. And what can you generate on a yearly basis with that? Do you know approximately?
Yeah, so approximately we're going to be hitting about $175 ADR and about a 75% occupancy rate.
Okay.
So quick math, I think it's going to land at about $132 RevPAR. Is that 75% of 175
RevPAR. Explain
revenue?
that again.
So revenue per available room. So I don't even necessarily look at occupancy rates or average daily rates.
Yeah.
I just want to know on average 365 days per year, how much revenue can I expect to
Yeah.
make? So if we're doing, let's say, $130 RevPAR, 365 days per year, it's going to be about $48,000 per year per unit.
Yeah.
Times 23, I think we're upwards about 1.18, 1.2 million.
Yeah, 1.1.
1.1, okay.
Yeah. Well, I did. So $175
Yep.
times 0.75
Yeah.
times 23 rooms works out to be about $3,000 a day.
Yeah, perfect.
And then
Times
multiply by
365.
365, that gives us 1.1 million.
Yeah.
Over.
So the old way of operating a hotel would have an operating expense ratio of about 65%. So for every dollar you're bringing in, you're spending 65 cents to run the place.
Right.
Now, a big part of that is having someone sitting behind a desk 24/7.
Right. But you guys are getting rid of that.
We're getting rid of that. Now, if someone's making minimum wage 24/7, it's about $130,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. So just by removing that, we're bringing our operating expense ratio down from 65 all the way down to 50. And that
100%.
right there is a significant value add.
Yeah, that's huge. So
It is huge, yeah. Now, it's not entirely gone. We still have staff. They're off site, though, and they're managing multiple locations.
Yeah.
So that one check-in desk could now be working 8 locations.
All right. I'm just gonna multiply these numbers out to see what that looks like. So you're basically like a $550,000 operating profit on this.
Yep.
Or should be.
Yep.
And do you think, like, what do you think it's worth to you once you fully convert it and optimize it that way?
Yeah, so we have a massive cap rate. In Quebec City, 9 to 10% cap rate.
9 to 10. Okay,
Yeah. And we're buying it for about 3. Closing costs will be about, especially if we're closing with private money, about $250,000.
Yeah.
We'll have a cash reserve in there for interest rate. And then we're spending anywhere about 10 to 15,000 per room just to put in the digital concierge and minor upgrades.
Yeah. So minor upgrades. So if I take the 3 million, and we're gonna probably add on another 300,000?
Yep.
Yeah. Or more than that.
Well, that's for the upgrades. And then say 200, 250 for the closing costs.
Yeah.
We're about 355, I'd say.
All right. So we're 355. I mean, if that's what you're in for, your cap rate is like effectively a 15%.
It's enormous.
Yeah, once you're done doing your thing.
Yeah.
And then financing wise, like, what are you able to get? 75% or not even?
No, 65.
65 at a 25 year.
Yeah.
At a 6% or 7%.
About 7.
7%.
Yeah.
So your cash flow on that building is going to be like 29 grand a month. Well, that sounds cool.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, but of course you got to come in with a 35%.
Yeah.
And you guys are raising equity for that? Or
Yeah.
are you debt ever or no?
No, we mostly raise equity. So
Yeah.
that one would need about 1.5 million equity to acquire
Yeah.
it. Especially with private lenders, there's significant interest reserves out to close with private money. But the nice thing is this is a turnkey hotel. The value add really is the digital concierge. Actually, one important thing I look at is the website. When you look at that website and you see how it's being marketed, we can very, very quickly tell there's a fast value add. It was a lot of fun going from multifamily, being like, okay, how do I add unit value to this rental unit? I'm adding AC, laundry, dishwasher. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the value add. Now I look at a hotel and say, okay, I look at the website. First of all, it's absolutely terrible. And it's not even on Airbnb. They're not using any booking channels. So, okay, here's my value add. Better photography, redecorate it, paint, get it presented better online.
Yeah.
That's a very quick revenue increase.
And do you guys get your stuff out onto booking.com and all those different platforms?
Yeah. So
and what software do you use to do that?
So we're using Cloudbed. So we work with a great company in Quebec City called Enero. Shout out to Sebastian. And they run on multiple platforms using Cloudbed. So they're on Booking, Expedia, Airbnb, and they have the direct bookings. So I don't actually run the hotel myself.
Yeah.
The one we have in Montreal is solely on Airbnb. Now, there are trade-offs to that. If you operate solely on Airbnb, you're actually going to lose credibility to your lenders.
No, you need to be on all of them. Like even our camp, we're on well, booking, Airbnb, and direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get direct, I mean, you're saving a fortune. Now, the argument is
Yeah.
that the algorithm on Airbnb rewards you for being solely on Airbnb.
Solely on there. Yeah.
But there are trade-offs. Your lenders aren't going to take you as seriously. They won't finance you like a real hotel. They're going to be like, what is this? We don't do Airbnbs.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on the direct booking, so it's not worth it.
Nah, you need to be a hospitality. And the direct booking is like a, 13% savings?
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
15 for Airbnb.
15, yeah, because they charge the renter a bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously there's a reason, and for our camp, we almost matched our Airbnb sales with direct bookings.
That's amazing.
This year.
That's a huge
in our
accomplishment.
second year of
Yeah.
operations.
So you save 7.5% of gross revenue on your direct bookings.
Yeah,
That's enormous.
yeah, it's monstrous, and we're hoping to grow that further.
Yeah.
But Airbnb is what directs people, and I think a lot of them like look us up, find us on Airbnb, and then Google us and find us because our name is on our account.
That's fantastic.
Which it just works out well. We don't tell them to do that. And if anyone from Airbnb is watching, we didn't tell them to do that. Some of them have asked. We're like, we can't tell you to do that. You do what works for you. They're like, well, it looks cheaper on the website. I'm like, I can't tell you that. In case they audit this conversation. So yeah, you definitely want to be careful on there. Any like tips and tricks, like modern day, like you did say, optimizing their pictures. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
What else can people do? Like, actually, let's talk about your digital concierge. Like, what do people see when they walk in?
Yeah, so everything's done remote through an app on their phone that they can download if they would like to, or they simply just get the information through Airbnb. For majority of the guests, they just need the room code and they get through the door. That's it. If they want to go through the app, there's this beautiful front-facing app that exists, and they can control a lot of stuff within the room. They can control the lighting, the HVAC. We haven't quite gone to this extent, but we would be able to control like the all the electricity and the water in some instances. It's unfortunately it's not quite worth it. We've set that up in one of our hotels, and it's a significant cost just to be able to
see the benefit.
Yeah, it's just not there because also they charge a monthly subscription just for that water monitoring.
Yeah.
So there really isn't much of a benefit. Now, one of the cool things that we can do is we set up partnerships and relationships with our neighboring businesses. So there's a cafe called the Cafe Big Trouble in Montreal. What we'll do is we'll have a deal with them where our guests can order food directly from their cafe, and they'll actually bring it to the room. So what that does is we have a hotel that's only 2-star service. We don't have a kitchen on site, but now we can provide that 3 or 4-star experience.
Yeah, it's like room service.
It's like room service, but it's fulfilled by our friends and partners in the neighborhood.
That's great.
There's a fantastic brewery across the street. We can offer beer packages, whatever, charcuterie boards, you name it.
And you set this all up and it's on the app. Like they can just order it, they tap it, pays right through the app.
Yeah, exactly. It gets fulfilled through the app. We get a commission. The store gets to sell something.
Yeah.
The customer gets
Who
something in
sets
the
all
room.
that up for you? Like all your tech, all your
It's all built in. It's a great company called Mocino. Mocino One.
So you approach them, they set the whole thing up for you.
I spent quite a significant amount of time looking for the right product.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about 2020 when I discovered Mocino.
Yeah.
I knew this technology existed and I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It was just finding the right version. And there was a lot of old fashioned companies that were that had some sort of offering, but it was junk.
Yeah.
And then when I met Zishan over at Mocino, it's incredible what he's done. It's a great product, and there's no doubt that more hotels should be using this. Now, I might have let a big secret out of the bag, but you know what? Frankly, it's not just the software itself; it is the process.
Well, you guys have obviously put a lot of time and energy into making sure you had all the boxes ticked.
Absolutely. And like the software itself won't make it a profitable business. It's just a tool.
It's like what you use, like how you use it.
It's how
what
you use
put
it.
into it. So it'll allow you to offer the food and do all that.
Exactly,
stuff.
right? It's just like Microsoft Excel. It's such a powerful program, but it doesn't mean you're going to,
Yeah. Any other tools people should know if they're in the hospitality business or expanding into it?
Well, there's definitely a ton of AI pricing that's coming up as well.
Yeah,
and it's
Price Labs is
it's only a pricepoint.io. It's only getting better and better.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it earlier, AI is about to change the entire world. So buying businesses and real estate that are going to have a ton of value to it. I mean, not to get off topic, but one thing I love is farmland. And if like a Tesla can drive itself, imagine tractors, right? Imagine automating farms. Like that for me is like, okay, owning farmland is going to be so valuable, right? Now I'm going to focus on hotels, but the thought process is what real estate can you acquire that can have value added to it by AI? And I think hotels is number one on that list.
Yeah, it's huge. I still think there's room for like a 5-star experience where you have a bellhop and it's people and people. I don't think people and people is going away.
No, it'll never go away.
But for the I just need a place to stay.
Yeah.
And, cost effective. I think people are totally cool with that.
Absolutely.
And obviously your proof is that this concept is, how many buildings have you done this on so far?
4.
And it's working well on all of them.
Yeah. Now, like the face-to-face interaction, that's on the top tier product. That's never going to go away. You're always going to have wealthy people that want to be catered to, and they need somebody to meet them there and take their stuff to the room.
But it's the ones in the middle. And I've said that a lot about like AI will do that with the button pushers. All the button pushers out there, your jobs are going away. You're going to have to be hands-on skills, extremely personable, charismatic. There'll always be a demand for that, but be the best. Don't be average.
That's right. And so all these things are really coming together to make this the right product at the right time. You have the Airbnb ban, you have AI, you have technology changing everything, rising interest rates for real estate investors. I mean, multifamily is in so much trouble right now, although it seems like the pendulum's swinging and the value's starting to come back, and there will be great opportunities. But I think what we've all learned is you can't live off appreciation. Like we all did so well from 2010 to 2020.
You got to earn off of operations.
Yeah, there has to be cash flow somewhere, and you have to find higher cap rate investments. And 2022, 2023 has taught the real estate community that you need cash flow. You need a good cash producing business asset.
So one question about this business model, what's your outlook on recession, and how it affects this type of business?
Yeah, so something like this can actually do quite well in a recession because it's towards the middle of the market. So the people who can't quite afford the top tier, they're going to come down a step, and they're looking for more value out of their experience. So one of our secrets or one of our key strategies is putting kitchens in every unit. So not only does that help our lenders, because they say, okay, well, if this goes south, I can turn this into multifamily.
Right.
But for a traveler, they're now saving their $100 a day instead of eating at restaurants 3 times a day. So in a time of recession, there's even more value in a product like this. Yeah. You can cook meals at home in your hotel room. There's a space that you can work. You can work remotely. You can even do laundry on site. So there's tons of value.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's all about value. How much value? Like just because the market's down, like you can still absolutely kill it in that market, but you got to be providing better value to people.
Absolutely. People don't want to have a valet. They don't want to have a chef or a gym or a pool, but we can make relationships with businesses nearby where that can be offered.
Yeah.
So that's a cherry on top. Yeah. Sell them the base product that they're very happy with and give them the chance to upgrade, but don't make them. And that's how we're able to survive in economic difficulties.
Nice. Very cool. Where do people reach you if they want to learn more?
So honeytreegrow.ca, and you can check us out on Atlas One or parvisinvest.com. And you can also see our work on addyinvest.com. Make sure you become a member there for their crowdfunding platform. It's a fantastic product. And if people want to invest with Honeytree, we have a mutual fund trust and a real estate investment trust. RSP eligible, TFSA.
Cool. That was a mouthful. So and we'll have you back on to the actual podcast so we can do a more in-depth interview. But this was great. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Pleasure.